This axe takes over 20,000 hours to get. But why? In Hypixel Skyblock, there have been a ton of custom items added to the game, each with their own unique way of being obtained. Some are given out from NPCs, some can be crafted using custom recipes, but most importantly, some can only be obtained from a lucky drop. The rarity of these drops can be anywhere from 50% to even less than 1% in some cases. And with each new update, the admins have decided to add rarer and rarer items to the game. It began with the pets update, which added the Ender Dragon pet, an item that has a 0.8% chance of dropping after killing an Ender Dragon. Then the Floor 7 update, which introduced the Necron Sandal, which has an even lower drop chance of 0.09%. And then finally, the Nether update, which added this insanely crazy axe. But you know what else would be insanely crazy? If you hit the subscribe button, cause I'm doing a cooking stream at 70,000 subscribers. And yeah, that's basically it. So now you're probably wondering how you are meant to actually obtain this item. Well, it's actually quite simple. With the introduction of the Nether update, a new boss was added, known as the Kudra. The Kudra is a tentacle boss that lies at the Forgotten Skull. In order to defeat it, you need to team up with 3 other players and use some cannons to easily kill it. Once you've killed it, you will be rewarded with 2 chests filled with randomized loot. The first chest is free, but it usually doesn't really contain any really valuable items. The second chest, on the other hand, can actually have some pretty damn good items, but you need a key to open it. These keys can either be bought from an NPC using nether stars and coins, or dropped from mini bosses on the Nether Island. Out of all the items you can drop, there is one that is inexplicably rarer than any of the others. And I don't mean like 10 times rarer than the second rarest item. No, it's legitimately 2,500 times rarer. The item I'm talking about is called the Enrager. The chance to drop it from a paid chest is no joke, a 0.000021622% chance. The axe itself has decent melee stats with 270 damage and 150 strength, putting it on par with the Shadow Fury, which only costs around 30 mil. However, most people are interested in its ability. The ability is called Enrage, and it allows you to taunt enemies in a 10 block radius and reduce the damage against you by 10% for 10 seconds, at a cost of 500 mana and 10% of your max HP. It also has a cooldown of 20 seconds. The ability itself is not terrible by any means, but it is not good enough for being on the rarest item in the game. But at least now that you know how to actually obtain this item, I can explain to you how I came to the 20,000 hours of grinding figure. So on average, if you are very good at killing Kudra, you should be able to kill it in around 3 minutes. In my opinion, I think that's really hard to achieve because every time I tried it with pretty good players, it always took us at least 5 minutes. But because I heard this from a bunch of other players, I'm going to be using it. Now, if we take that percentage and convert it into a fraction, we get a value of roughly 1 in 460,000. That means if you killed Kudra 460,000 times, you should theoretically get 1 Enrager axe. So using the time of 3 minutes per run, that gets us to 1,380,000 minutes of grinding, which is also equivalent to 23,000 hours. That's literally 2.5 years of non-stop grinding. Since it's basically impossible for someone to actually intentionally grind for this item, I kinda wanted to look at how long it would take for at least one player in the entire game to obtain it. There's no public info on how many Kudras are killed per day, so for this, we're gonna actually have to make a pretty well-educated guess in order to get accurate results. Luckily for us, there is the website hightrack.me, and this actually allows you to see how many players are on each skyblock island. According to the data, anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 people are on the Crimson Island in a day. Since it fluctuates, I decided to take the average and use that, which is 2,250. To be honest, since the update recently came out, the player count is probably going to be a little bit lower in the coming days, but since we're doing these calculations, I'm just going to assume that it stays consistent. But we're not done yet. These 2,250 players also includes the people who are participating in all the other nether content that isn't killing the Kudra. It's hard to say, but I'm gonna assume that only 1% of those players on the island are actually killing Kudra. I know 1% sounds really grim, but to be honest, I don't think that many people are actually doing Kudra, cause if you even look at Hightrack, you can actually see that usually more people are in a dungeon than on the entire nether island. Which just goes to show that most people would probably rather do a dungeon than a Kudra boss. So now, in the case that it's 1%, we can calculate that across the entire Skyblock community, around 10,800 Kudras are going to be killed a day. This means it will take roughly 42.5 days for at least one person on the server to drop it. The nether update dropped on April 20th of this year. However, you could only do Kudra on April 22nd if I remember correctly. So we should see someone dropping it in a couple of weeks, and more specifically on June 3rd. But you've got to remember, it's entirely possible that a noob just decides to do his first Kudra run just for fun and doesn't go in with the key and ends up missing the rarest item in the entire game. The fact that an item this rare actually exists in the game baffles me. Well, this is technically not the exact rarest item in the game because there are items that have a 1 in 1 billion drop chance, but the difference is the Kudra takes at least 3 minutes to kill, while that item with the 1 in 1 billion drop chance comes from a mob that you can easily kill in a few seconds or even in one hit. But let's be honest, nobody can decipher what goes on through these admins' heads when they make the drop chances for these items. Like, bro, do they use a random number generator and they go like 1 from a million and just like, oh, okay, I guess this is the drop chance for this item? Like, how does this happen? For example, I thought that in the higher tiers of Kudra, which have yet to be released, the drop rate would obviously be higher because it's a harder tier. But while researching this video, I actually found out that it gets even rarer the higher tier Kudra you kill. From what I understand, the reason for this is because whenever you increase a tier, the actual pet that you can drop gets a higher rarity, but everything else should stay the same. But since it has to add up to 100, all the other drop chances slightly decrease. And that's the reason that it gets lower for all those other items. But that's basically all I've got. If this is the first time you've seen one of my videos, I'd recommend this playlist I have on the screen, which goes over a ton of super rare things that have happened in Skyblock. So that's it. See ya.